This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, this update is amazing, but went pretty underreported. So, the Oregon Supreme Court has ruled that a staggering 10 Republican state senators won't be able to run for re-election in that state. What happened here?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting case. As you say, it's underreported. The people of Oregon had enough of Republican shenanigans walking out of the legislature time and time again to deny a quorum. So in some states, you just need half the people to be present in the legislature to vote. In other states, you need more than that. In Oregon, you need 2/3. And Republicans were abusing their status as a minority party by walking out over and over again. And so the people of Oregon passed a ballot initiative that said, if you have 10 unexcused absences, then you can't, you at the end of your term, you can't run again. And so Republicans sued to try to block this. They lost. And those 10 Republican legislators need to find other employment because they are not coming back to run for re-election.
Well, to that point, given that this decision was at the hands of the Oregon Supreme Court, the highest court in the state, is there any recourse for these legislators? Like, are they looking to appeal the decision to the federal court system?
No, I mean, look, this is the thing. You are like a good Democrat because you're always worried that somehow the Supreme Court is going to like come swooping in. I understand why.
Half being a Democrat, half being a Jew. We're just,
I was going to say, right? Like we have it coming and going, you and I. But the good news here is this is just interpreting state law. This is a state ballot initiative that was interpreted by the state Supreme Court. There is nothing for a federal court to do. There is nothing for the U.S. Supreme Court to do. These 10 Republican legislators are out of luck. They're got to go, find unemployment or find some job where you don't need to show up a lot.
Yeah.
Because they are not going to be in the Oregon legislature anymore.
Yeah, it's our birthright, Mark. We if we don't worry, our hearts stop beating. So
it is. It's true. Although you managed to find your way all the way to the West Coast.
Yeah.
I stayed near the motherland.
Right,
New York.
Right. Mark, why were these lawmakers walking out for such significant amounts of time here, knowing what fate could await them?
Yeah, so this is the thing. People think, well, it's Oregon. They must have had a good reason. No, these are as bad a Republicans as they are in the rest of the country. They were boycotting abortion rights, gun reform, gender affirming care, democracy issues. The last walkout lasted 6 weeks. And like I said, there's always been a tradition in this country of minority legislators in the minority using their power to try to leverage better policy where it matters. But this is the kind of abuse we've seen. And look, you could tie this to the federal fights we've seen, where Republicans turned the filibuster from a once in a while used thing to something that got abused. Under President Biden, they use it for everything. They filibuster things that they then vote for.
Yeah.
So the Oregon legislature here, going back to Oregon, the Republicans there used it to block real progress in that state, and the people of Oregon had enough. They passed this ballot initiative, and here we are.
By the way, for anybody watching, I found out all about this by reading it on Democracy Docket. So if you're not yet signed up for Democracy Docket, which is the free news outlet Mark founded to focus on everything voting in elections, please sign up. It's completely free. Again, it's the most useful resource that I have. The link is right here on the screen. It's also in the post description of this video. Mark, can you speak on the fact that even with these walkouts, Republicans are so committed to refusing to participate in democracy?
Yeah. So this is the trend that we see in state after state, and certainly at the federal level. If there is one thing that Republicans won't do, it is to constructively engage in the legislative process. I mean, look at what happened at the federal level with immigration,
right?
And that whole thing. The Republicans said, we won't move forward with Ukraine or these other things until you do the border. Then they appoint Langford. Langford negotiates the deal that they want.
Did exactly what they had asked him to do.
Exactly. And then they all say, yeah, no, we're not voting for it. And Langford has said he won't vote for it. So in many respects, what you see in Oregon is a symptom of a larger disease within the Republican Party, which is that they simply want to obstruct policy. They simply want to prevent democracy from moving forward. They're not in favor of anything. They're just opposed. And so good for the people of Oregon that say they're tired of this and that they're not going to stand for it. And if Republicans won't elect politicians who will at least show up and do their job, then they'll replace them.
Right. I mean, the bar isn't too high. I mean, we're not like they'll run election deniers. We're just asking these people at a bare minimum to just show up to work, you know?
Absolutely.
Mark, in fairness, there have been walkouts like the one in Texas, for example, protesting that state's egregiously unpopular election law. And in Florida, state legislators protested racially gerrymandered redistricting maps on the floor of the legislature. How do you reconcile the importance of one with the abusiveness of the other?
Yeah, look, I think that it's easy to reconcile them. The fact is, as I said, minority parties in legislative chambers use their power, the limited powers that they have, to make points, to hold the majority sort of accountable and honest. We saw that in Tennessee with the courageous actions of some Democratic legislators there. Obviously, Texas, as you pointed out, you had a walkout in Texas over the voter suppression bill. But fundamentally, those were instances where they were being done under extraordinary circumstances to protest abuses by the majority, abuses where the majority was simply not taking the minority seriously or not giving them the rights that they are entitled to. But fundamentally, Democrats came back. They came back to the table. And so it is fine for whether it is Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives right now, where they flex their muscle in ways they can, or Republicans in some state legislative chambers, but to totally disengage the process and to walk out over and over again over all manner of legislation and try to deprive those bills from moving forward in their entirety. The people of Oregon had enough. And the people of Oregon passed the ballot initiative. By the way, the ballot initiative passed with 68% of the vote. Yeah. So it got Republican votes, because people expect, sure, that you're going to have a certain amount of theater and a certain amount of protest, but at the end of the day, they want their elected officials to do their job. And in Oregon, Republicans were not meeting that minimum threshold.
And just to add to that, I mean, that is the party that rails more than anybody else about limiting or preventing government waste. There is nothing more wasteful than these people not just saying their part and trying to do their part to hold the majority accountable, but not even participating, making government stop. That is what they want to do. It's just solely trafficking and dysfunction so that the processes of government don't work, which, by the way, they can then point to afterwards and say, look, we want small government. We told you government can't work. The government right here is not working. What they don't tell you is that the whole reason it's not working is because they themselves are the ones who break it, but ultimately it redounds to their benefit.
Right. And we see that, again, at the state level, Oregon, at the national level, the House of Representatives, the Senate. If you look up the definition of chutzpah in the dictionary, there is a picture of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that they are taking credit, by the way, now for infrastructure projects, bills they voted against. They God knows what they'll say about immigration now, having, but yeah, you're exactly right. They want to break government. They want it to be ineffective. And then they want to point at it and say, you see, government's broken.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it there. Again, for anybody watching, if you want to follow up with any voting rights news, definitely make sure to sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.